I suppose when you just come off of watching the night before as the 14-2 Baltimore Ravens with the league's MVP Lamar Jackson winning 12 games in a row to close out the season, coming into the divisional round at home, getting steamrolled by Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill, and the Tennessee Titans, you gotta be prepared for anything and everything. But could anybody have possibly have been prepared for the show that we got Sunday afternoon in this Texans and Chiefs divisional round game? Could anybody be prepared for that? Could anybody? And here I am last week thinking, well, the Texans and the Bills. That's the Jameis Winston Invitational of the playoffs. It's a train wreck. It's all of these things. It's captivating and you can't take your eyes off of it. But nothing could follow that up in this playoffs. Oh, no. I present this game today. What in the bluest of blue hells did we just watch? What happened? Like, from the jump, it was bizarro world in this game. Texans get the ball. They forget the Chiefs secondary to defend Kenny Stills. He's open by like 20 dang yards deep down the field. Bam, it's a touchdown. It's 7-0 Houston. And Chiefs fans are sitting there and their sphincter holes are puckering just a little bit, but still incredibly early. But then you come back, the Chiefs drop balls by Travis Kelce, drop balls by Demarcus Robinson, and then for a special teams unit, coached by one of the very best to ever do it in Dave Taub, you get a punt block and a return for the touchdown. And all of a sudden you're down 14-0 with only a few minutes gone in the game. Even quicker than what would happen with the Titans and Ravens the night before. This was insane. And it didn't stop there. A little bit more, and all of a sudden you turn around, the Texans are in the end zone again. Like, you talk and talk about Andy Reid and some of the notable playoff failures over the years. But for this team to come out that early and lay an egg, even though, again, you're talking about multiple drop passes by wide receivers, a secondary totally forgetting to defend Kenny Stills to the point where he was butt naked wide open, block punts and all that other crap, and they're sitting at 21-0 in a deficit early in the game. Of course, you got to point at the head coach, and you said that's clearly his fault, right? No, you can't. But even then, like, just knowing it's the Houston Texans, and more specifically, knowing it is a team coached by Bill O'Brien, you got to figure out there is a train wreck coming. Like, you knew it. You just had to know it. And eventually, he was going to do something stupid that would ultimately cost his team. And oh, baby, did he ever. Help me understand this. Your team is up 21-0. You are smoking the Chiefs. KC barbecue style. Pouring all types of Houston, Texas honey barbecue sauce all over them. You got 4th and short. Deep in Chiefs territory. And instead of going for it, you play chicken crack football and kick the field goal. So what? You go up 24-0. What the hell is that going to gain you at that point? It'd have been one thing if it was already like a 23-0 game. And you say, okay, you kick the field goal, now you go up 4 scores. Even 3 touchdowns and 3 2-point conversions isn't going to put the Chiefs in the lead or tie the game. But here, the net positive is nil. This speaks to the stupidity of Bill O'Brien and his, in particular, game situation management. You have to know the read and the feel of the environment, the game, your team, and most importantly of all, the opposing team. And when you are in a situation for a team like the Kansas City Chiefs, with an explosive offense like that, with the best quarterback in the game today in Patrick Mahomes, when you have the chance to put them out of their misery, you have to do it. Kicking a field goal there, even putting you up 24-0, is that Greg Norman style of playing not to lose, and more often than not, what's going to happen? It leads to a choke job, and that's exactly what the hell happened. So after that useless inexcusably stupid field goal that did nothing for the Houston Texans. Here's a kickoff. Mecole Hardman runs it back 57 yards. Couple plays later, Patrick Mahomes, touchdown pass. Oh hell, it's 24-7. We got us something now. Then, after not having the courage to do the so stinkingly obvious thing of going for it on 4th and short, deep in Chiefs territory, you decide in your own territory on 4th down when you still have a big lead in the second quarter that you want to run a fake punt. A fake punt. The decision to kick the field goal and play chicken crap football is the decision that changed everything. It was the turning point of this football game, period. Anybody that tells you that going for the points there was the advised and wise strategy is a nincompoop. It did nothing. Even if you don't get it, the Chiefs hadn't moved the ball much on you all game. The receivers are dropping passes all over the place. You take your chances with that. You don't sit there and kick the field goal, stop the bleeding, and then sit there and let them run the kickoff back 50-something dang yards. A couple plays later, all of a sudden it's 24-7. It ain't much, but it's something. And then you run a fake punt. It's like basically saying, hey, I tried to rig it against my team last week. I didn't get it done. So this week I'm going to make sure I bob it up early on. And boy, did he bob it up. A fake punt in that situation is the cherry on the freaking Sunday of the hashtag Fire Bill O'Brien movement. Now, so often you see this team try to overcome the sheer stupidity of their head coach and now general manager. Let's reward the guy who's done mediocre things to just above average things as a head coach for several years, not even proficient and masterful in his own job. Let's expand his core competencies and his core role to include personnel decision-making power. Who the hell does that? Unbelievable. And it's no surprise what happened next. The wheels started to fall off on the Houston Texans. The Chiefs had all the momentum. You know, all the Chiefs needed to do at that point was say, hey, even when they're down 24-0, just get 10 points or 14 points. Find a way to stop the Texans once or twice. Get it to halftime down 10 or 14 or so. You get the ball first in the second half. You've got a ball game. But instead, the Houston Texans said, screw that. And by the time the second quarter was all done, the Kansas City Chiefs had run off 28 unanswered points and had a 28-24 lead at the half. You can't make this stuff up. You can't. You just can't. On their way to reeling off 41 consecutive unanswered points. So before you knew it, between the second and third quarter, you look at it goes from being 24-0 Texans to 41-24 Chiefs. By the time it was all said and done, the Chiefs end up winning 51-31. In 45 minutes of football in 3 quarters, the Chiefs put 51 points on the board. You talk about one of the epic, classic, all-time choke job, gag job. This is it right here. And if you're the Chiefs, and especially Chiefs fans, this had the feelings of so many other times you've been in this spot before. Your Chiefs win 12 or 13 games. They get the 1 or 2 seed. They get a bye. They get the divisional round game at home, and then they crap the bed and you go home early. Y'all have lived that life far too many times, but this time was different because this time you had that quarterback you could believe in. And to all these other people that are talking about Derrick Henry and the Titans last night, you win the game at the line of scrimmage, you win the game in the playoffs with running the football. Sure, you can, but you can also win it by having a spectacular, dynamic offense with a freaking absolute stud of a quarterback. There is more than one way to win in the playoffs, and we must change our thinking about this. So the Kansas City Chiefs snatched victory from the jaws of early certain defeat. And I'm sure Chiefs fans were worried just a little bit there because it got a little too uncomfortable because the Chiefs all of a sudden are up 17. And you're sitting there saying, oh, God, now how's Andy Reid going to mismanage this game? How's he going to screw the pooch on this one? Well, not this time. Patrick Mahomes and that offense said, not this time, Andy. Just sit back and enjoy the ride, Walrus boy. We're going to try and get you the Lombardi trophy you need. Woo! That was funky. So that's what happened in the Trubisky Bowl. That ever-bitter reminder for Bears fans like myself and so many others. Could have had either one of those guys. Wouldn't even have to trade up to get them. But instead, you got Trubisky. Like, that's depressing. That's something that makes you want to drink, start opioids, and or attempt suicide. You're going to get this reminder for a long, long time to come. It just comes with the territory of being a Bears fan. But what's next for the Houston Texans? Well, they get to watch the Chiefs host the AFC Championship game against the Tennessee Titans, which should be an interesting matchup. And the Texans can look back and say, where the hell did we go wrong? Where did you go wrong? It's called Bill O'Brien. You give up the future to trade for a left tackle and Larry Tunsil. How the hell much good did that do you? Oh, you finally won a playoff game against somebody's non-backup quarterback. Oh, and then they get the job done. Oh, you're headed in the right direction. I bet you are, you jerk. What I don't want to see is guys like J.J. Watt and Deshaun Watson waste peak years of their careers playing for this incompetent nincompoop and numbskull. And you even had those freaking idiots on social media crawling out of the woodwork during the game saying, what about that Bill Belichick coaching tree? And what about that Bill Belichick coaching tree? What about it? What about it? Exactly. Sit down, shut up. Woo! What is the possible justification, though, for allowing Bill O'Brien to continue to be the head coach and general manager? Like, never mind the fact it was stupid enough that you let him win the battle of power against Rick Smith in that front office. And even though he hadn't done enough to necessitate continuing to keep him as a head coach, you instead decide you're going to double down on him and give him general manager powers that he didn't earn, that he didn't deserve, and he's done a horrible job with. Now you almost got to the point where Bill O'Brien outflanked you, and where if you fire him, you've now got to go look for a new coach and a general manager. It's almost smart on his part how easily he manipulated that Houston, Texas ownership group. You idiots! You can't let this guy come back. It will just be more of the same, and Texans fans know what I'm talking about. So many situations, even just this year. Hell, even when you talk about coming out in the first half against the Bills at home in the wild card round, laying an absolute egg, and even when you get to the point where you come storming back in the second half because your team tries to overcome your idiocracy as a head coach, your team still finds a way to almost screw the pooch, allow the game to get tied and go into overtime. It's almost like he's a Jameis Winston of coaches without any of the redeeming qualities whatsoever. Like, if you want to know why you should fire a coach that's had multiple winning seasons, multiple playoff appearances, and just had a 24-0 lead in the divisional round of the playoffs, but ultimately lost, I present to you Bill O'Brien. This is brutal. This is bad. And this is the perfect epitome and should truly serve as the cherry on top of the sundae of the Bob experience in Houston, but unfortunately will not. Meanwhile, you're very possibly going to see this Chiefs go on to the Super Bowl and potentially win the Super Bowl. Still a lot of football left to be played, mind you. And Houston Texans fans are left to wonder, when is it ever going to be any different? Because you have to have a feeling deep down in the pit of your stomach that no matter who else you bring in terms of players, no matter what else happens, Bill O'Brien will ultimately find a way to screw it all up for you. Look what he did today. Period.